She treated her black driver like dirt until the day he revealed he owned her debt. The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble driveway of the Ashford estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, where privilege wore a face as cold as winter's stone. 25-year-old Marcus Bennett adjusted his black tie in the rearview mirror of the sleek Mercedes S-Class, his dark eyes reflecting a story deeper than anyone in this neighborhood could imagine. His hands, steady on the steering wheel, bore the calluses of a man who'd known real work long before he ever wore a driver's uniform. Marcus had been driving for Eleanor Ashford for 8 months now. 8 months of swallowing insults that would make most men walk away. But Marcus wasn't most men. He'd learned patience in places where impatience meant survival. And he'd learned strategy in rooms where million-dollar decisions were made before breakfast. The uniform he wore was just another costume in a performance that would soon reach its final act. Eleanor Ashford emerged from the colonial mansion at precisely 7:30, her golden hair catching the light like spun silk, her blue eyes sharp as cut glass behind designer sunglasses. At 30 years old, she'd inherited her father's real estate empire and his sense of entitlement, though she'd inherited none of his business acumen. Her white Chanel suit probably cost more than Marcus was supposed to earn in 3 months, and she carried herself like someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. The estate itself stood as a monument to old money and new arrogance, with its imported Italian fountains and perfectly manicured hedges that required a team of gardeners to maintain. The neighborhood was the kind where people whispered about property values and charitable donations in the same breath, where diversity meant having housekeepers from different countries. "You're 2 minutes late starting the car," Eleanor snapped as she slid into the back seat, not bothering with the greeting. "I have a meeting with the Riverside Property Management at 8. Your incompetence will not make me late." Marcus met her eyes in the review mirror, his expression carefully neutral. "The car has been running for 5 minutes, Mrs. Ashford. Will arrive with 15 minutes to spare." "Don't talk back to me," she hissed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You work for me. You speak when spoken to, and you certainly don't correct me. Do you understand? Or do I need to use smaller words?" "I understand perfectly, ma'am." Marcus pulled smoothly out of the driveway, his jaw tight, but his hands relaxed on the wheel. He'd heard worse, survived worse, and planned for this exact moment for longer than she could imagine. "My father warned me about hiring your type," Elena continued, scrolling through her phone without looking up. "Said you people always think you're owed something just for showing up. But drivers are cheap, and at least you know how to keep the car clean. That's about all you're good for." Marcus said nothing, letting her words bounce off the armor he'd built over years of strategic silence. In the mirror, he watched her. Really watched her. The way her fingers trembled slightly as she typed, the tension in her shoulders that spoke of pressure she pretended didn't exist. Eleanor Ashford was drowning in debt she'd hidden behind designer labels and false confidence. She had no idea that the man driving her car held the rope that could pull her under completely. "Are you deaf?" Eleanor's voice cut through his thoughts. "I asked you a question. Where did you learn to drive? Or did they just hand licenses to anyone in whatever neighborhood you crawled out of?" "I learned to drive in Detroit, ma'am. Been driving for 12 years without a single accident or ticket." "Detroit." She laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. "That explains everything." "Well, try not to bring those ghetto habits into my car. This vehicle costs more than your entire family probably makes in a year." The morning traffic of Greenwich moved with choreographed precision. Luxury vehicles gliding past boutiques and country clubs like a parade of wealth. The street smelled of expensive coffee and fresh pastries from bakeries where a croissant cost $12. Marcus navigated it all with practiced ease, his posture military straight despite the verbal assault. In the back seat, Eleanor's reflection showed a woman wrapped in armor made of arrogance, her blue eyes cold as New England winter, her golden hair styled with ruthless perfection. The car itself was immaculate. Black leather seats that Marcus polished every morning, dashboard gleaming like obsidian, not a speck of dust anywhere. Even the air freshener was custom ordered from France. Everything about the scene screamed wealth and control, except for the secret that hummed beneath it all like a current waiting to surge. The Riverside Property Management Office occupied the top floor of a glass building overlooking the Connecticut coastline, where deal makers gathered to slice up real estate like pieces of cake. Marcus pulled up to the entrance where a cluster of business professionals stood smoking and talking, their eyes tracking the expensive car with practiced assessment. Eleanor didn't wait for Marcus to open her door. She never did. But today, as she stepped out, her designer heel caught on the curb, sending her stumbling forward. Her briefcase flew open, scattering papers across the sidewalk. Marcus immediately moved to help, bending to gather the documents before they blew away in the morning breeze. "Don't touch those," Eleanor shrieked, her face flushing red. She snatched the papers from his hands with such force that one of them tore. "These are confidential business documents. What are you trying to do? To steal my information? Is that your plan?" The smoking professionals had stopped talking, all eyes now on the scene unfolding before them. Marcus straightened slowly, his hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. "I was just trying to help, Mrs. Ashford." "Help?" Her voice rose higher, attracting more attention. "You people always have an excuse, don't you? Always trying to overstep, to take what isn't yours. You're a driver, not a colleague. You're staff. You're here to drive the car and keep your mouth shut. Nothing more." A woman in a navy suit stepped forward, her expression concerned. "Excuse me, is everything—" "Mind your business," Eleanor snapped, not even looking at her. She turned back to Marcus, her blue eyes blazing. "You know what your problem is? You don't know your place. You think because you wear a clean uniform and drive a nice car that somehow you're equal to me. But you're not. You'll never be. You're just another—" "Ah, Eleanor, that's enough." The voice came from the building entrance, deep and authoritative. A silver-haired man in an expensive suit approached, his face tight with disapproval. "I could hear you from the lobby. This is unacceptable behavior." "Mr. Chambers, this doesn't concern you," Elena said, her voice suddenly controlled, professional. "I'm simply correcting my employee by screaming at him on a public sidewalk." Chambers shook his head. "Your father would be ashamed." "Hell, I'm ashamed and I'm just witnessing it." Eleanor's composure cracked slightly. "My father?" "Your father knew how to treat people with dignity regardless of their position," Eleanor interrupted. "Clearly, that lesson didn't pass down." "Marcus, is it?" He turned to Marcus with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry you had to endure that." "It's all right, sir," Marcus replied quietly. "I'm used to it." "Well, you shouldn't have to be." Chambers glanced at Eleanor with disappointment before walking back inside. Eleanor's face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. She grabbed her scattered papers, shoving them roughly into her briefcase. "Get back in the car," she told Marcus through gritted teeth. "And if you hear I've said anything, one word about this, to anyone, you're fired. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "And stop looking at me like that. Stop looking at me like you're judging me. You have no right." The sidewalk scene had become a theater of discomfort, with witnesses pretending not to stare while capturing every moment in their memory. The morning sun seemed harsher now, exposing rather than illuminating. Marcus stood beside the Mercedes, his posture unchanged, but his eyes carrying something new. Not anger, but calculation. Eleanor disappeared into the building, her white suit a bright spot against the dark glass, her golden hair whipping in the wind. The smoking professionals had resumed their conversation, but Marcus caught their glances, heard their low murmurs. Word would spread. It always did. And in Greenwich, reputation mattered more than truth. Tay, how did this story impact you? If you believe in fighting prejudice together, type Unity Wins. Share your thoughts. Remember to subscribe to Racism Root for more transformative stories that inspire change. Marcus sat in the driver's seat, windows down, breathing in the salt air from the nearby coast. His phone buzzed with a text from his business partner. Board meeting at 3, don't be late. He allowed himself a small smile, hidden from any observers. The double life he'd been living was exhausting but necessary. Every insult, every degradation, every moment of Eleanor's cruelty had been filed away, building a case that would matter when the time came. Excuse me. A voice pulled him from his thoughts. The woman in the navy suit who tried to intervene earlier stood beside the car, her expression a mixture of concern and anger. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I work with Eleanor on the Riverside project. I wanted to apologize for what I witnessed. That was completely unacceptable. Marcus studied her carefully. Sarah Mitchell was maybe 35, with kind eyes and the air of someone